Hello and welcome to Mike's Garage. If you've already subscribed to our channel, thank you very much. If you haven't, please do. And when you do, please tap on the little notification bell so you'll be notified every time we put up a new video. If you tap on the little like button, we appreciate that too. Thank you. Okay. We've been at it here for a while. I wanted to get another video up because people say, well, what's happening on Elsie? Well, Elsie is coming along nicely, but everything I've opened and everything I've worked on has taken a whole bunch of work to correct. Now, she had a clutch pedal on her, second to none. And it's a modified version of an old-time rocker pedal. And I know that Mike had a lot of trouble using it, and I promised him I'd put a new suicide pedal on this thing quite a while back. Now that I have the bike captive, I was able to do it today. And it took hours and hours to make everything fit. Now, I hear people complain about aftermarket parts a lot. And you know, yeah, you got to make things fit, and yeah, everything has been jury-rigged over the years, and yeah, it takes some doing, but it's better than starting with nothing. And I know Mike wanted a suicide pedal on here, and that's what he got. So I had one in stock. It's an old one that had been laying around. I cleaned it up a little bit, and holes in the frame had been oversized, so I had put bigger bolts in here, the size that they'd been drilled out to. And of all the clutch rods I had, I think I had 3 or 4 of them. None of them were the right length, so I took the longest one and cut it to length. The clutch arm that was on here has been used for, I don't know how many different kinds of clutches over the years. I thought it was pretty interesting. And I had an old worn one I was going to have Rob Turner at Turner's Customs over in Yucaipa. I was going to have him weld one up for me, and I went in there and I said, oh, I forgot to bring that over with me. And he said, here, and he gave me a brand new clutch arm. Again, a reproduction. Nice new part, but a reproduction. We ended up having to put it in the hydraulic press and bend it to make it work. But there it is. We have a suicide pedal, and it works. And works quite well. Now, one of the things I'd like to mention, you know, I had a shop for years. I worked in other shops before I had my own shop. I've ridden every combination of these things you can imagine. And one of the things that people that build their first bike with a suicide clutch on it, what they don't realize is your ankle rotates. And so pushing the pedal is not hard to do. But in order to control your foot, you need to have a place to put your heel. And I will be putting a small piece out here. I don't want to make it too long because I don't want to interfere with his foot going out here to the forward peg. But I'm going to put a piece here. You don't need one that's very wide, just long enough. Yeah, I'm going to make one out of this, I think. And it'll be probably shorter than that. All you need is a place for your heel to pivot on. Again, the ankle moves much like your wrist. Your hip does not. So having to lift your leg off and on of this is a very difficult way to control it. I've ridden a lot of them like that, and they're really difficult. You need a place to put your heel so you can pivot. And how far this thing goes, you almost need to put a limiter on it, which I'll probably put a little bracket up there so it doesn't go too far. It only needs to go about this far, and notice the clutch functions now. There we go. Doesn't need to go real far. And if you use a late model clutch, say a Pro clutch, or maybe one of Baker's diaphragm clutches, all those are good clutches. But they're diaphragm springs, and they don't need to move as far, and you need to limit the pedal on those. But that's a real suicide clutch. When you take your foot off it, you're gone. You either hold it down or you find neutral or you will take off. And that's why they're called a suicide pedal as opposed to an original rocker type clutch, which stays engaged or disengaged depending on the position you put it in. Another word to the wise is never trust one of those because it might engage automatically if you take your foot off of it. So anyway, that's how that works, and that's what we've been doing. The other thing, and I'll have this finished in the next day or so, and we'll show it when it's all finished up. The next thing is I took the handlebars off, had to repair the risers. The handlebars were cut in half right here on the right-hand riser. And again, I didn't want to change the looks of this bike. It's not my job to be putting my taste into it or anything. This is all from my buddy Mike. So what I did is I took the handlebars over to Rob Turner at Turner Customs, and he welded them back together. He welded a plug in there, and I mean, he did a beautiful job. So I was able to get the handlebars on it. I went through my parts, and I found a mirror. There was already a bracket there, so this thing is going to have to pass Highway Patrol inspection. Highway Patrol, of course, goes according to the California Vehicle Code, so it's required that it has a mirror. Let's see, we'll also need a brake light on it, but I haven't gotten to the brake side yet. I've got all of this stuff that I will probably replace most of it with some better used stuff. I came up with a whole bunch of stuff here for a brake light switch, and we got that ready to go on. So I'm going to be doing this in the next day or two. And I'm also going to have to add a horn somewhere. That's something else required in the California Vehicle Code. These laws aren't really hard to deal with. They just require things that I guess should be required. So I want to make them happy. I don't want to have any difficulty getting this thing registered for Mike. So we will get all this brake linkage done, and brakes will be all done. And here is the new clutch arm, which we put on here, which is much better than the old one that was on there. And Sonia's bothering the cameraman big time here, but that's okay. The other thing, Mike went over, cameraman Mike went over and took this taillight apart and made it all function and repaired it so that the lens is actually held on with screws. And again, we're not changing this bike, we're just fixing everything on it to make it fully legit and safe and fun to ride. So that's pretty much what we're doing. I don't know of anything new else I can show at the moment. We will be able to, let's see, I found these pegs that I'm putting on. And the reason I'm putting these pegs on is because I like the fact that it has a nice place to hook his foot in there. You know, over the years, I've angled pegs up just a little bit, things like that so your feet don't slide off. And in this particular case, I think this hook right here on the end of these pegs is going to be real nice. I don't know who made them or where they came from. They were in my parts room. So they could have come from just about anywhere. No, there's no brand on them. But whatever they are, they are. And I think they'll be nice. So we'll be redoing that and more back there. And we'll be doing that again in the next couple days. We'll get all caught up on that. And we're getting closer to having this thing ready to run. So until then, I'll see you out on the road.